Okay, Mother, we're out here just off of Robert Street. It is, what is it? Today is January the 20th.
Yes.
And we're going to do a little filming about your recollections of growing up. So let's see, you were born when?
I was born in 1916, July 18th.
Uh-huh. And you were born where, at home or in a hospital?
I was born at home.
And home was where when you were born?
It was at a corner of two streets. One was Baldwin Street, one was Kensington Avenue. And we were born, my mother and father had rented a flat. They didn't own anything at that time, and that's where I was born. And then we moved from there. I remember when I was about 2 years old, I went to a street called Oxford Street. And then...
You remember at 2 years old, huh?
Yes, I was quite mature. And then I remember we moved to a street called Markham Street, and that's where my sister Frances, my middle sister, was born. And then from there, my mother and father were able to save up enough money to put a down payment on a house on Robert Street, number 56.
Uh-huh.
I remember how excited my parents were. The house, I think, must have cost them maybe $2,500 or $3,000. And so I'm 85 years old now, and I was, what, about 6 years old at that time. Prices were much different, weren't they? And so my sister Rose was born in that house, and there's 7 years difference between the two of us. And I remember my mother, she was born at the Mount Sinai Hospital, which was...
Who was born at Mount Sinai?
Rosie.
Okay.
And Frances was born at home also, the middle sister, but Rosie was born in the hospital. And that Mount Sinai Hospital was a little tiny hospital on a street called Yorkville, which is very trendy now in Toronto. And we lived at Robert Street. Oh, and a great-grandmother came to look after us, and she was in her upper 80s. I remember her very well. And then we lived in Robert Street for 20 years.
Well, let's look here at the house that you grew up in. Let's see, where is the, we've got the sign here. We should be able to zoom in on Robert Street. Okay, and now let's go take a look at which house it was that you grew up in. We'll come over here. Now, what, it was number 56, was that it?
Yes.
So let's see here. We've got number 56 right there.
Do you live at 56 Robert Street? That was the house that I grew up in. My son is just... We lived here for 20 years. Let's see, we've been away from 58 years ago. Yeah, is it 58? No, we're living at not 58 years. It can't be.
Well, you were 6 years old, you said, when you moved here.
We lived here for 20, so I was 20 years old, I think, when we moved away from here. And we're living at the house we're in now for 59 years. So how many years is that? That's about... Huh? No. It's
You look too young for that.
Thank you.
Oh, that would be
much.
terrific. Could we? That would be wonderful to go in. We're just taking a little filming of...
Oh, shall we go?
Of my mother's life. She was born in 1916, so she...
This is for her 70th birthday.
You were born
or
in
something?
19 what?
16.
Born in 1916.
I'm 85
We
years
think
old.
my mother's good for 85. She's going to be 86 on the 30th of March.
Isn't that wonderful?
No, but look at this. Yeah, come on in.
And she moved here, moved...
Okay,
Our
but
eldest
listen,
son.
no comments. I have 3 teenage daughters. Rooms are a pigsty.
No kidding. I have
this
three
is-
sons.
this is
Three
great.
Sons. You think they're
Beyond,
good?
you want to wait a second?
Are you sure? Don't do it if it's going to be a...
No, go ahead.
the whole outside looks different because there were big porches on either house with a divider between, and the windows down here are the same, except that my
This
mother...
one's been changed.
Well, there must have been a little window.
There
up on
was.
There was a window,
But
yes.
something happened with ceilings and stuff before my time, but I don't even
How
know
long have
that-
you been here?
9 years.
Well, actually, she lives here.
Yes, well, whatever, yes. But
It's
yeah, we
changed since
spent-
what? It was 1922 when you moved into this house.
I was, yeah, because my younger sister was born here. No, look, maybe it's too much for
door's
the.
open. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Bawling children.
Don't apologize, please, because I have teenage children too.
These are horrible kids.
No,
They're
they're
nice
not.
kids,
They're
but they're
kids.
very messy.
They're kids. I wouldn't worry about it at all.
One of them is just
Does any of this look familiar to you, Mother?
Well, you know, I remember having the long hall, of course, and we had our kitchen in the back.
Well,
And
the
then it
people
was,
before me, I think, made a bigger kitchen. And
well, it was quite a large kitchen. It was a large kitchen, and then there was an extra little kitchen, not a kitchen, an extra room in the back. And oh, I can remember all the things that we did here. The boys and the girls, you know, we went to school, and
The Lansdowne School just right over
yes,
here
well,
was
we
where.
went to public school here. It was called Lansdowne, not Lord Lansdowne.
that was before they built the crazy one. It wasn't this shape.
They changed it? Yeah, well, the outside, yes. Oh, God, does that ever bring back memories? And I remember my mother used to come at recess time, and per daughter, maybe she didn't have enough to eat. So she'd bring me a bagel,
How cute.
you know, so I should have something to eat. And my sisters, we all went
Okay.
to school here. Oh, my gosh.
Follow.
I can't
Katie used to live
believe
in this
it.
house like 55 years ago, when she was 6 till 20 or something.
Hi, girls.
Hello.
Oh, yes, the dining room. And then this is where my father started his business, right in the living room. Dad lost his job and he had to start a business. So he decided he'd go into some groceries. So he used to bring big barrels of pickles,
Yeah.
barrels of herring
Home?
in our living
Oh my
room.
God.
Barrels, well, this is where, and in fact, we had neighbors across the road, and they thought that we were doing moonshine, you know, liquor. And they had the
more money.
RCMP because to come in
Oh my
and check
God.
these great big barrels. And Dad used to, there were olives and pickles and herring, and then he would package it in some way, I'm trying to remember how, and he would sell it to stores. And that's the way he started his business, and then gradually he went
And
from,
it grew?
yes, he went to a little store, and then he went to a larger place, and so on and so forth. But it was right here
Are we
in the
still eating
living
those
room.
pickles by any chance?
It could be.
And Mother, we had a dining room set here with a crystal fixture, right
No,
here.
when I moved in, there was no fixture up there.
Oh.
They had taken stuff out. Actually, they had a kitchen on the 2nd floor and kitchen on the 3rd floor and everything.
Well, we had tenants because my mother and father couldn't afford to keep the place. So my two sisters and myself slept on the 3rd floor in the attic, and then we had the 2nd floor rented so that they could help pay the mortgage.
Well, I sleep up on the 3rd floor. It's my whole bedroom.
this place.
I don't think we paid more than about $3,000 because I remember my parents sold it, I believe, for $4,500. We thought we got a tremendous price for it.
Well, the house 2 doors away, or 3 doors away, just sold for $447,000. They asked for 17. There was a bidding war. They got $500,000.
You
Amazing.
can't believe what property is going for.
Well, it
especially
was
in-
a few
is
years
this still
ago,
called-
Mother.
Is this called the annex?
Yeah.
No, but
It's not the annex, but
these
not
properties on these streets are getting more than what we would get on our street. It's amazing
Come
what
in the
they.
kitchen.
Oh,
Mind you, this won't be the same at all. I think this has all been ripped out. The man who owned this house before me put this stuff in the wood on the side here.
oh,
So
yes.
imagine the kitchen only came to here.
Oh, this is lovely.
No, our kitchen was full size. It was closed off here. Oh, I see what you mean. It was closed off here.
Yeah.
No, this was the kitchen, and then we had this as an extra room, and they opened this up. So, it's lovely. Oh my goodness.
And
Isn't this-
a yard in the back. You used to play back there, did you?
I can't, the Howard,
Well, it goes further back, and
Oh, now, look at this.
I've
Did
done
you
2
get-
things. I've had the fence out, and I've had it in. There's a parking pad back there.
I see.
But it's still, it might have been further out in your day in the whole backyard.
That I can't remember so
Mhm.
well, you know. We were three little girls growing up here, and then.
And then the third floor now has a deck on the back of it. I'm
Oh,
sure
has
you
it?
didn't
No,
have that.
oh no.
And a
no.
bathroom
Oh
and
no.
everything.
We had one bathroom for all. How many were we?
One on the
We
second
were
floor.
5, like my mother, father, 3 little girls, and then we rented the floor to 4 people, a mother and a father and 2 children.
So you had 9
and
people
with
with
one bathroom. And really, my mother and father had 1 bedroom on the 3rd floor, and the 3 girls slept in 1 room. I don't know if we slept in 1 bed, maybe.
Oh.
And that's the way we grew up.
Oh yeah, everybody
You
did.
know, it was fine. And as soon as the mortgage was paid, my mother and father gave the tenants notice and took over the whole house. Oh, it was really something. So, oh, thank you so much for that. Oh, how wonderful. Look at all your art here. It's great. Oh, isn't that something?
And they put in a powder room, and the basement's a full apartment with a bathroom and a kitchen. And a
Oh,
laundry
well,
room and
no, we
everything.
had nothing. We had a
There's
cellar.
3 bedrooms in the bathroom upstairs.
No, we had a cellar.
Watch yourself, Mother,
You
don't
know
trip.
what that means, just a cellar.
Yeah.
There was nothing else here, and the 1 bathroom.
My grandmother had a house on Rushholm Road,
Oh, yes,
so I remember
yes.
going down there to visit. I always thought it was a mansion. It had a big front porch. Now I look at it, it was a big house, but
Rushholm Road, what, north of where?
you know what? I don't know. My mother can't remember the address.
No, what was it, around St. Clair?
I don't know.
Oh, because Rushholm Road.
Again. So this is the school you went to as a little girl,
The elementary school, as we
Lansdowne Public School, right?
It was called Lansdowne Public School when I went. It is now called Lord Lansdowne.
Has it changed much? Is it?
Yes, because it was only a junior school when I went to school. There was no such thing as junior and intermediate and senior. It was
Yeah.
just junior and senior schools.
So it was like from grade 5 to, or I
From
mean grade 2 or
kindergarten.
whatever. Oh, kindergarten.
Well, I didn't go to kindergarten here. I went to a kindergarten called Ryerson Kindergarten.
Yeah.
Because that's where I lived when I was, so I was, 5 years old when I went to kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And I went 1 year to kindergarten there. And then we moved to Robert Street, and I went into 1st grade here.
And
I
you went
to-
all the way through
grade
till
8.
8.
Yes. And then I graduated and I went to Central Commerce, it was called.
Well, we'll go over there a little bit later.
Yes.
So are there any other memories that
Yes,
that
the
stick
memories-
out from
This-
your
well,
years
this-
here?
Well, this neighborhood was, they used to have around the corner, there was a place called City Dairy, where
Mhm.
they sold milk, but it was also wholesale. But they had an ice cream outlet there, and that was where everybody went to get ice cream cones. It's all around the corner. And the building you're looking at now, I don't know whether it still is, but at one time it was the Banting Institute, the people that discovered insulin,
Right.
and that was the building, but whether it still is, I don't know. But the neighborhood has changed considerably, and this is, I can't get over seeing the old homestead where we grew up. It's really remarkable. Of course, it doesn't look the same, but then actually every person that moves into a house brings their own personality to it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to pause. All right, so you graduated from Lansdowne, grade 8, and then you came here, right?
Central
So this is the
Commerce.
Central Commerce.
And at the time it wasn't called Central Commerce Collegiate, it was just called Central Commerce.
Yeah, no, I know that I've seen pictures of you and the as a star athlete. So what's the story here?
You know, it's very, I hate to say this, Howard, but I don't remember too much. I know I played on the volleyball team,
Yeah.
obviously, because I have a picture at home with the outfit
Yeah.
and the girls that I played with. But I really can't remember whether we ever competed
Uh-huh.
or it was just a school activity.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I must have been a star, otherwise I would been on the team.
So do you have any other recollections
No,
of high
you know,
school?
it-
Did you enjoy high school? Was it
Yes,
fun?
I happened to be a pretty good student,
Uh-huh.
and
You
I
had-
excelled in bookkeeping, which I enjoyed. I took shorthand, but I really wasn't interested in secretarial type of work. It was more with figures.
It's a long way here from Robert Street
Yes,
to
and
here.
used to walk every day, twice a day, in the cold, without a hat, which your father cannot understand how anybody can go without a hat in the wintertime.
You always yelled at me if I didn't wear it.
No, but
Get dressed.
we walked twice a day. There was no, I don't even think there was, or we didn't even think of transportation. My mother didn't drive a car, and my father, yes, I don't even know whether we had a car. I think we did have a car at that time, but Dad needed it himself. So we walked to school.
Yeah, and how about friends? You remember any
Yes,
of your friends
I
here?
had two close friends, be careful, you're gonna- two close friends that we kept up our friendship actually until just about the time that we got married, and somehow we drifted.
Yeah.
And
Who were they? Do you remember their names?
yes, one was Norma Dennis, and one was Jerry Singer. Norma has passed away. Jerry, I think, is still alive. And but we went different paths, and that's about all that I remember about high school. I was here for 4 years, and obviously was happy here. Otherwise, probably I wouldn't have stayed here.
No,
And-
Auntie Rosie and Auntie Frances didn't go here,
no,
right?
they didn't go here. Auntie Frances went to Harvard Collegiate, and Auntie Rosie went to Central Technical School.
Uh-huh.
And Auntie Frances was at Harvard Collegiate for 5 years, and then went off to Barnard Memorial in New Jersey to take a nursing course.
That was pretty adventurous of her to leave
Oh,
the
yes.
country. I bet that must have caused a lot of uproar in the family.
Well, it did. It bothered my mother and father because at that time, I'm going back now, probably also 58 years ago, and there was no transportation with flying or whatnot, it was difficult for my mother and dad, but it turned out well.
How did she decide to go off to New
Well,
Jersey
it so
of
happened
all
that
things?
12 girls from Toronto, girls that she knew, and one in particular that she went to school with, had decided to take nursing, and they had discovered that in Toronto, they wouldn't accept you if Auntie Frances was only 17 and a half years old, and they wouldn't accept, and then if you were Jewish, you also had a difficulty to get into these schools. And Barnard Memorial was a Jewish hospital, and they had a training course, and about 12 girls from Toronto went to take that course. And Auntie Rosie was the artistic one in the family, and there was a course at Central Tech in art that she was interested in. So she was there for a couple of years. She didn't complete it. And then Auntie Frances never came back because she met Uncle Eddie and married and lived in Philadelphia. And I worked with my father when I graduated here, and I was the bookkeeper of Ontario Grocers.
Well, we're going to continue this at home because I'm running low on battery power and we can get warm.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, now we're back in the warmth of 22 Turner Road, and here you've got a picture of you and your
My athletic accomplishment.
let's see
in
if
high
we
school.
can see that. Okay, now which one is you? Oops, it's hard to focus it. Which one
Here
is
I
you?
am, right in the middle.
You're
The
in
tall one in the center.
Okay, we're getting some reflections. All right, there is the tall one in the middle. Let's see if we can focus in. Maybe it's best to put it on the table, and so it's stable. And okay, all right, that's good.
Okay.
That's very good. So there's you and the
Uh,
volleyball team, huh?
There's the volleyball team, and
there's
there's
the
me.
big star.
What?
All right. I guess we're not going to get too close to
No.
that. All right.
Are you all right now?
Yeah. So do you have any recollection of your time
No,
in the
I'm
volleyball
sorry
team?
to say that I don't seem to have any recollection, but obviously it says we were the senior volleyball team.
Huh.
And we have the names of the girls that played. And we must have been in competition at the time. Otherwise, if I should ever be fortunate enough to meet, if they're still alive, meet one of the girls, perhaps I'll be able to find out if they remember about our volleyball days. But in the meantime, I have this picture. So we must have been a star team, otherwise there wouldn't have been a photograph of
Right.
us.
Well, okay. So where did we leave off? You had graduated from Central Commerce, and then you became the bookkeeper of Ontario
And
Grocers.
yes, Dad had opened up. He had bought, trying to recollect, he bought Ontario Grocers from a man by the name of Rubinoff. And there was just Dad and myself, and we must have had a truck driver because it was something my father couldn't do, you know, lift the cases and things like that.
He used to be a truck driver. You mentioned
He was
that
a
to
truck
me.
driver, yes, but he was getting older.
Uh-huh.
And then we stayed there for a few years. And then as we got to be a little bigger, we bought a property on College Street, just west of Bathurst Street.
Rolling
And,
again.
and there we were in that building. I'm trying to think now. We were there for, I guess, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years. Because I know you were at least 7 years. I think we were there maybe for about 8 years. And we still lived on Robert Street at the time, and I used to walk back and forth to the office because it was so close.
Right.
It was only, what, about 5 or 6 blocks. And we had several employees at that time. We had a truck driver, and we had, I think, 2 warehouse men. We were growing. And then the building, no, I guess the building was we rented. I don't think we owned that building because then it was being sold. And we didn't want to buy that building, so we went hunting, and my father found this building on Bartlett Avenue, number 8. And there we stayed there until, oh yes, but your father came to work for us, and he worked for us on College Street.
How did he happen to
Well,
come to
it so
work there? Do you
happens
remember the story?
Yes, I do, because his mother and aunt, his cousin Dr. Track was going to be married, Al Track.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to be married, and so his mother and Dad's mother wanted to get some almonds, different kind of nuts, to prepare the pastries for this wedding.
Yeah.
And so they knew Dad, because at one time Dr. Track's mother and father and Dad's mother owned a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to buy their groceries wholesale for their store from my father.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew that he had a wholesale on College Street, and they figured that they knew him well enough so that if they came to buy anything, they could get it at a wholesale price. In the meantime, Dad was what, 19 or 20 at the time, and he was out of a job. So his mother said to my father, would you by any chance have a job for my son? And it so happened there was a position available because one of the fellas was going off to war. It was 1939, I guess, was going off to war. Dad, for some reason, wasn't taken into the Army. I don't know whether he had a hiatus hernia or what it was, but he wasn't accepted. So he worked, and we worked together for 7 years, and he was courting me all that time, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to marry him. But after 7 years, we decided we would get married.
Yeah, were you seeing any other guys? Did you have any
I
other
had some
boyfriends?
dates, but nobody's serious.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, then
How did he propose to you?
I guess he came to the house and he said, "Will you marry me?" I expect you. I guess I'm not that sentimental. You expect me to remember 58 years ago.
Well, I don't know. I thought it might be a memorable event. Obviously, it wasn't.
Anyway, then what happened? Oh yes, we had to move, and so.
Well, now hold on a minute.
Yes.
So you got married. So tell me about the wedding. Do you remember what
Oh,
was
of
the?
course I remember.
Tell me about the wedding.
I remember the wedding.
Yes.
We were married. Do I ever remember it? My father, there was a Rabbi Levy, an elderly rabbi with a nice white beard, and he knew my father, and my father said to him, "If my daughter, when she gets married, you're going to be the rabbi to officiate." Okay, so my mother and father chose a synagogue on Spadina Avenue. It was called the Londoner Shul. But it came with a rabbi and a cantor. But my father had promised Rabbi Levy, I think it was pronounced, so he was invited to be the rabbi. Can you imagine? Because none of us, and it was an Orthodox synagogue, and really none of us were that really Orthodox. We were Orthodox, of course. There was no thinking about conservative reform for the European people, more or less, so we were Orthodox. So here I've got 3 rabbis and a cantor.
Three
That's
rabbis.
That's
Okay.
officiating at this.
Uh-huh.
Oh yes, Dad wore a tuxedo with a top hat. That's the way he was dressed. And I had a bridal gown that was very beautiful. It was made for me.
Well, I think we have a picture of
Yes, I
that
have,
event.
yes.
We'll take a look at that in a moment.
And